insist, as a basic right for every person living with HIV, no matter where they are in the world, that they should have access to treatment, that they should have support to be adherent to treatment, they should be empowered and informed. And this isn't just about improving the health of people with HIV, it's a public health response. This is how we end this. And that's what's so exciting about it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I keep on butting.
So the good news is your gonorrhea is easily treatable.
Can I have a test for HIV as well?
Sure.
I trained as an actor.
Yeah.
So that's that's what I used to do. I was in the Mousetrap. I wasn't like a particularly successful actor. I just just kind of did lots of Fringe. I did. Do you know the Scoop Open Air Theatre?
Yes.
Yes. So I was.
At City Hall.
Yeah, I was in the original. Well, I was in the first 6 shows they did there. So I did that, and I was actually chair of that theatre company for about 3 years as well.
Incredible.
I was trained as an actor, and I was a jobbing actor, so occasionally doing a little bit of, nice paid West End work, and, but more often doing, pub theatre and all of that. And then when I got diagnosed with HIV, I just kind of went, you know what, this life is just too hard to be, trying to get work as an actor, and also, like, oh my God, I'm going to die, and all of those kind of things. And so that actually was what kind of made me kind of go, just stop it, go and do something else.
So when were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in 1998.
God.
Oh no.
1998. So back then...
So we have effective treatments since 1996. That's when Vancouver conference happened, and that's when they said, look, if we combine these drugs, antiretroviral therapy, then you're going to survive.
So when you were first given your diagnosis, it wasn't a death sentence?
It wasn't a death sentence. It was. So I definitely.
Were those drugs available as a trial, or
no, absolutely, they were rolled out almost immediately.
Right.
And it's really interesting if you look at the kind of curve of AIDS deaths, both in the UK and globally, and it's just like, it's going like that, and then it just goes zoom, like that.
Wow.
As soon as the drugs come in. Obviously, in some nations, it's more challenging kind of getting the drugs out, cost and implementation and all of that. But yeah, I mean, the curve is quite extraordinary. But I think some people, and certainly people who weren't necessarily scientific or medical, were like, okay, it seems to work, but when you say it works, like, how much does it work? Is it really going to be okay? And dosing was much, much worse back then. So the idea that you would have side effects was much more. I mean, so I remember, even though I was diagnosed, and even though I knew that the treatment would probably stop me from dying young, I still thought that I would probably kind of, that if I started treatment, I'd get like really bad side effects, and they would be visible, and that was a big issue for me, because it's kind of, we were talking earlier about that kind of shame, that feeling, and it's like, well, if you've got the visible scars of,
because at that point it wasn't legally required for you to take them. The health organisations didn't enforce it.
It's still not.
It was still a choice.
It's still not legally required.
No.
They can't force you.
No.
But no, that back then, you would. They would not start you on treatment until your CD4 count dipped below 350. I think it was back then, and that was because the drugs were toxic and the doses were toxic, and so the side effects were quite intense, and so they would kind of think that they thought that it was better to keep you off treatment for as long as possible. But we now know that that's not the case, and dosing has improved, and so there's much fewer side effects now.
So did you go onto the medication straight away, or Was there a way for you?
I actually, funnily enough, that comes back to Scoop Open Air Theatre. It was the second year of the Scoop Open Air Theatre that I went on treatment. So I could find out when I went on treatment by looking that up. And it was scary because I thought, I was really, for me, I thought that I could kind of ignore it in my head as long as I wasn't on treatment, but as soon as I was on treatment, then I would know that every day I was ill. And so going on treatment was quite a big emotional thing for me. And I was asked to do the show, the Scoop, and I kind of just went, can I do this at the same time as I go on treatment? And will it just be too awful? But it was okay. It was okay. Yeah.
So going back to that kind of, you said about that that moment where every day you kind of reminded when you take that medication. How long did that last? That kind of, has it ever gone away?
I think what I've tried to do is try and take it and be powerful about it.
Yeah.
I don't feel, personally, I don't feel the impact of stigma anymore.
Yeah.
Because I can just brush it off now because I'm so open about my HIV status that if someone tries to come at me for it, it's just like, really? Really? You're coming for me? Honey, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, and I just feel, it's that thing of, like being gay, is that when you censor yourself, when you don't bring all of yourself into the room, as it were, then you're not really there and you can't really be yourself and you can't express yourself freely. But then as soon as you let go of those fears and you let go of that anxiety and that self-stigmatizing that you do and just go, this is who I am, it gets easier.
And when did you first go public?
I first went public in 2012.
As it was quite a while after your diagnosis.
And that was mainly because it took me that long before I told my parents.
Right.
And I think that's quite common, isn't it? I think quite often it's the parents that you feel like you've let them down. You feel like you've been a bad child. And perhaps all those... I know that with my parents, I know that when I first came out to them as gay, my mum was very much, oh, well, you're probably going to get AIDS and die, aren't you? And she wasn't a mean person, but I mean, I think that was her way of, she was upset that I was gay. Homophobia was much, much worse back then.
Yeah.
And she just thought that it was going to be an unhappy life for me. And she did lash out a bit because she was upset. But, that was how it was. And so when I did become HIV positive, I just decided that I didn't really want to talk to my parents about it. And if I couldn't talk to my parents about it, then I couldn't go public with it. But at the same time, I kind of thought if I could go public with it, if I could talk about this, it might be really helpful for people. So I was quite conflicted about that. I was quite thinking, I really feel I should talk about it, but I was scared. It's that high board moment, isn't it? You're standing on the edge and you just go, can I do it? Can I do it? And as soon as you take the leap, well, I mean, you can't go back anyway, so you just better hope that there isn't a shark waiting for you at the bottom. But for me, it's been fine. It's been fine.
And were you worried about any professional implications when you were in 2012?
No, because I was working in HIV by then, so I thought it would be quite a scandal if I got fired for being HIV positive. But we are legally protected.
Yeah.
And it's really important that people know that you cannot be fired for being HIV positive, so long as your job does not involve actual exchange of bodily fluids. I mean, we have protections as people living with HIV, so you should not be fired for being HIV positive.
And then, so what was the response like from people when you came out publicly? I mean, obviously by that point you were already working in the sector, so...
Yeah, I mean, and part of it was, quite often I'd be at conferences. These aren't the glamorous international conferences. I'd be at little kind of conferences in Birmingham or places like that. It wasn't particularly, Birmingham's lovely, obviously, but I just want to be clear, this wasn't me swanning off anywhere. And I think these public health meetings, and I kind of noticed that people kept on assuming that I was HIV negative, and I thought that was really odd, and I don't know why they assumed that I was HIV negative, and so I kind of felt like I had to wear a badge saying don't assume I'm negative. Generally, I feel like I've been really lucky, and I recognise that it's related to privilege, really, because I'm a white man and I'm middle class and I'm well educated, and so I enjoy a whole lot of privileges which give me, they give me security, and I recognise that I'm really lucky to have those, that they are accidents of birth, they're not something I earned. So if I, with all of those privileges, can't be open about my HIV status, then how can anyone? So I really hope that by talking about it, by being open about it, by being a bit fearless, maybe brazen about it, I can make it easier for other people.
And have you noticed a response from people? Has it encouraged or inspired other people to be more open, or to?
Yeah, quite often people do come up to me and say the really nice thing. They say, well, because of you, I don't feel so ashamed, or because of you, I was able to talk to someone about it. And that's really amazing when that happens. And what's really exciting is for me is seeing how the conversation is starting to change, and seeing more and more people be open about their HIV status, and also seeing more people who aren't living with HIV being really strong allies, and saying, well, actually, if you're the kind of person who will say, I'm clean, you be too, on your dating app profile, then they could just kind of call them out and go, stop being such a dick. And I think that's fantastic when you see that happening.
You recognise that there is that kind of stigma still, and it's an internalised thing within the community, isn't it? Between...
Yeah, I think stigma affects different people in different ways. I think there's still a lot of it, and I think that gay men are more likely to encounter stigma, like on dating apps and things like that. I think within African communities, I think stigma is often experienced in very different ways. Often it's about kind of family and or about faith, and that isn't to say that there aren't some amazing people in the faith world who are doing a lot to support people living with HIV, and there are people of faith and faith leaders who are also living with HIV. But I think the experiences of stigma can be very different depending on who you are.
And you recently starred in a web series called The Grass is Grinder.
Yeah, grass is always grinder.
Always grinder. And how was that to get back behind the camera?
In front of the camera.
In front of the camera.
In front of the camera. It was. Well, I did a couple of web series at the same time, and in The Grass is Always Grinder, I play a healthcare professional it's a little bit ambiguous for exactly what kind of healthcare professional he is. But he's kind of like a health advisor / doctor. And obviously it was kind of quite weird because I guess some of the things which my character said are kind of things which I might also say. And I know that some people thought that it wasn't meant to be acting at all, and it was just me. And I did once, I was at 5016 Street, and someone approached me thinking that I was a doctor because I play a doctor at 5016 Street. So I mean, it was weird. I mean, I have to say, in honesty, I enjoyed doing the scenes where I wasn't in 5016 Street a bit more, because those were the scenes where I actually kind of got to act a bit more rather than just talk about HIV, which I do in my real life or my other life, my muggle life. I did another web series at the same time called Flatshare, and it was really weird. They both literally came out in the space of a week. And in that, I played this drunken, aggressive, mean, violent ex-boyfriend of the hero of that. And it was kind of really weird because they had these like kind of two characters come out with me on film in the space of a week, and one of them was like terribly nice and very earnest and like kind of really caring and compassionate, and the other one was a mean fucker. And I was just going around saying, well, you know, obviously, you know, one of them reflects who I really am, and it isn't necessarily the one in the grass is always grinder.
Bit of a merge of both.
Yeah, well, yeah, they, yeah.
It shows you got range.
I got range, darling, I got range. The Grass Always Grinder was written by this incredibly talented writer called Patrick Cash, who is very involved in writing about the gay scene and the gay community as it is now. I did a show with him. I've done quite a few theatre shows with him, and a show I did with him was called the Chemsex Monologues, and I also played a health advisor in that one, although he was a very different health advisor from Ryan, which is the character I play in The Grass Always Grinder. And he was quite camp, or at least the way I played him, he was quite camp. I just felt that he was that was what it was about. And and it was really weird because when I first started playing him, I felt like I wasn't sure if I would like him if I met him in real life. And by the time I'd been playing him for a bit, and this show I've done it for over 3 years. It kind of keeps on coming back, and I keep on saying, yeah, I'd love to do it again, because the more I played him, the more I just really fell in love with the character, because he was so nice, and he just greeted life with such optimism, and I had that weird thing where, even though I really knew he wasn't me, I kind of started thinking, but actually I really admire bits of him, and maybe I need to learn a bit more about how to approach life from him, because he greeted everything with enthusiasm, and he always thought the best of people, and he always wanted to be there for people. So that was like a really nice thing to do. But I also played for Pat Cash in another play. My other favourite role I played for Pat Cash was playing a drug abusing Tory business person who, you know, is a real hypocrite and kind of just a bit psychopathic, really, and that was also really fun to play.
So sometimes I ask people whether they feel that the diagnosis has ever held them back with their career, but with you it kind of brought you back into that fold.
Yeah, I think for me, if I'm really honest, I think I really got interested in acting because being a gay boy in the 1980s, and you're used to hiding bits of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think it's kind of quite common that a lot of people kind of got into acting because they were so used to putting on a front. And so when I first got into acting, it was about kind of running away from myself. And as I say, you know, I kind of stopped acting when I got diagnosed because I just felt like it was all too complicated. But then when I came back to it, when I got asked to do some more, and I felt like I came back to it with a very different attitude because I wasn't ashamed of who I was anymore. I was fully embracing who I was, and in a way that made it easier, and it made it easier to play a range of different characters and, you know, use different voices and all of that, because I felt much more comfortable in my own skin. And I think that's, yeah, I feel like I'm a better actor now than I was when I started, because I'm happier in myself.
So you talked when I arrived about how you just come through quite a busy period.
Yeah. World AIDS Day.
World AIDS Day. And how involved are you? What activities? Because I know you're busy with AIDS Map.
Yeah, so my job
Yep.
is I'm executive director of an organisation called NAM Publications, and one of the things which we do is provide information about HIV through our website AIDS Map, and sometimes we call ourselves AIDS Map just because that's what everyone knows us for. So people kind of sometimes think that actually my whole life consists of just taking gym selfies and stuff like that. But actually, I have a proper desk job, and I manage people, and I look at budgets, and I do a bit of fundraising, and I write policy and strategy, and that's what my real job is. And yeah, I mean, obviously around World AIDS Day, there's a lot of attention happening, and so we have to kind of really make sure that the information that we're putting out is kind of appropriate for, you know, the themes of World AIDS Day. And I end up doing a lot more writing and a lot more media stuff around that time of year. And it just becomes like this kind of big, well, also you have National HIV Testing Week just beforehand as well. So you have this kind of crazy period of a couple of weeks where it just feels like you've kind of got 50,000 plates and you're just spinning them frantically. And then it suddenly, 2nd of December comes and you go, oh, God. And then you just like lie there. So,
And do you enjoy the role?
Yeah, I think in lots of ways I've always been really interested in communication, and that's kind of actually the thread which kind of links everything that I've done, you know, since leaving university, whether it's acting or writing or you know, working for GMFA, which is what I did before I joined NAM. Or providing HIV information through AIDS Map. It's all about giving people information, because I feel like I trust people. I trust people with information, you know, and I think if you give people honest, accurate information, they will do good things with it. And so when we, you know, so obviously, you know, U equals U is something I talk about a lot. Because we talk about stigma for people living with HIV, and because we talk about treatment access for people living with HIV, and because we talk about the fear of people testing for HIV, or the fear of people, which is based on the fear of living with HIV. And when you say, well, actually, if you have HIV and you're diagnosed and you go on treatment, not only is your life expectancy the same as someone who is uninfected, but also you can't pass the virus on to your sexual partners. And that's such a phenomenal, stigma challenging, you know, HIV test accessing, treatment grabbing, you know, piece of information. I mean, it feels like it's absolutely fundamental to how we think about HIV now. And so, of course, I want to take every opportunity to tell people about that.
And you equals you is something that's come around since your diagnosis within your timeline.
Yeah.
Did that impact you personally when it?
Well, so I was working with GMFA, which used to be Gay Men Fighting AIDS, and we knew a long time ago that if someone had a low viral load, that they were much less likely to pass the virus on. Now, when I kind of first started kind of talking about it or thinking about it, it was actually, it's that when someone's just acquired HIV, their viral load is really high, and then it goes down like that. And then if they don't access treatment, eventually it starts to rise, and then it becomes AIDS. And we knew that people would pass the virus on when it's at the top, when they've just been infected, and again when it started to rise again as their body was kind of starting to be impacted by the virus. So we knew that viral load was really important, and GMFA started doing information campaigns, which included this back in 2001, and also the idea that treatment had an impact, that kind of came. We just kind of made those connections. But hold on, if we know that transmission risk is linked to viral load, then actually we also know that HIV treatment suppresses the levels of virus, and so there's got to be a connection. And then we started to see studies. Initially, the first studies which we were aware of were coming from Africa, from African nations, and they were looking at rates of infection in populations where a lot of people were on treatment, and they were seeing that actually new infections were going down. And so we started to make those connections. And then there was a study called HTPN052, and that was the first study which said, hold on, it looks like if someone's on treatment and someone is virally suppressed on treatment, they can't pass it on. And then there was Partner One, and that was, kind of an initial, they were like, okay, well, we've got to really start looking for this now. And so they studied a large group of people, and at the end of that they said, we're pretty darn sure that it can't be passed on from vaginal sex, probably can't be passed on from anal sex, but we don't have enough people who are having anal sex within the whole sample to be absolutely certain about that. And then there was another study called Opposites Attract, which was just gay and bisexual men, so the penetrative sex was anal sex in that, and they went, nope, we found nothing. And then there was Partner Two, where they had expanded it, and so now we've got like kind of hundreds and thousands of cases of people where they were serodiscordant, where one was living with HIV and the other was not, and the HIV positive partner was undetectable on HIV treatment, and there was not a single case of transmission from the positive undetectable partner to their negative partner. And it was like, this is it. The risk is zero. And I think for me, because I'd kind of been looking at all these studies, and it was just like kind of, oh, well, we know it reduces the risk. How much does it reduce the risk? And it's like, as the studies come out, we go, okay, we've kind of gone from, oh, it's a concept, to now, oh, we're pretty confident, when Partner One came out. And then it's like, no, this is real. This is actual. There's zero risk. And so I guess I kind of felt really excited, because it's actually, it's safe sex. And for so long we've been talking about, condom use. Condom use is safer sex.
Yeah.
PrEP is so incredibly effective. One or two cases, really odd, bizarre, like struck by lightning, kind of really odd cases have slipped through. So it's not quite 100%, but it's 99.99 or more. You know, I mean, it's really, really effective. But U equals U, zero risk. I mean, how amazing is that? So yeah, and I know it makes people feel differently about their bodies and about, you know, if you're made to feel like you're just a vector for disease, of course that has an impact. You walk around, you know, like, oh, you know, you want to get your bell out and start ringing it, you know. I mean, that's no good. And you can be liberated to know that you can have your squishy, sexy, dirty, dark, whatever sex without any risk to your sexual partner.
Yeah.
Great.
And going back to when you were first diagnosed, did you have any fears or worries? What were they?
I thought that I would be dead before I was 50.
Right.
You know, as I was diagnosed in the era of effective treatment, so, but it was early, and so we didn't know quite how effective. Yeah, so I thought, if I can just get to 50, then I've done really well. And I thought that I would be horribly disfigured.
Really?
And, you know, it's pretty obvious I'm a very vain person, so that thought scared me enormously. Yeah, and then when I got to 50, I was like, okay. So now my goal, because it was get to 50, and that's the target. So now my target is live long enough to go see Richard Linklater's film version of Merrily We Roll Along, which is not going to be released for like another 20 years.
20 years away.
So, and like that is probably my second favourite musical of all time. So that's my new goal. I want to see Merrily We Roll Along, the movie, and
goal.
I want Ben Platt to take me as his date. Just putting it out there, okay?
Put it out there. Might happen. Could happen.
Well, you know. So Ben, you know, in 20 years' time.
Love her.
Oh, I'll try to look my best for you.
Amazing. Tell me more, just quickly, about AIDSmap then. What resources do you provide through that?
So we have a lot of information on the website. What we do is we cover all the biggest stories in HIV. So kind of that's stories from journals and from conferences. So we'll have all the latest information about treatment, we'll have all the latest information about prevention, we'll also look at other issues, you know, kind of things like, you know, kind of around pregnancy and breastfeeding, around chemsex, for example. So we've got really comprehensive news coverage, and we also have really comprehensive information. So if someone is worried about transmission risk or worried about life expectancy or wants to kind of get that basic information, it's the right place to go to. The other things that we do, we print booklets and stuff like that, but also what I'm really excited about is how we communicate information.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this thing recently which we call AIDSmap Live, where it's broadcast live on Facebook and on Twitter, and people can ask questions live. It's like a 1 hour broadcast. It's a bit like I guess it's a bit like Loose Women or something like that, apart from I'm not going to say we're loose. No, I'm not going to say that. We get, you know, people with medical expertise and people with lived experience together, and we can discuss some of the latest issues. And I hope it's kind of like, and it's a kind of a fun, interesting way of putting information out there. We've got some podcasts which we're going to be doing soon, and we've also kind of got we kind of like do patient information forums and stuff like that. It's all about ensuring that as many people as possible know about HIV and about how to live well with HIV.
And where to get the information and how
and
to
where to get the
access it.
information. Yeah, absolutely. So www.aidsmap.com is the for the website. But yeah, I mean, it feels to me that you can't just put information out on one platform. You've got to find how to most effectively reach people. So, you know, we've got that website. We do the AIDSmap live broadcasts. We're going to start doing podcasts. I use social media a lot. I mean, that's how you know about me, I think, isn't it? I mean, people kind of, I go on Twitter and I put information, and I obviously link to the website as much as possible, but also sometimes it's just about putting out something funny to kind of grab people's attention, but actually give people information at the same time. And I also post lots of gym selfies because...
why not?
Well, you know, mainly because I'm sitting at the gym and I'm kind of like bored and like, you know, I've just finished the set and I'm like, I've got a camera in my hand, and, you know, with my phone. I'm like, you know, and that's it, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
And but yeah.
If you don't take a selfie, did it even happen?
Absolutely. And I now feel obliged every time I go to the gym to take at least one selfie. And I say I take one, I might take like 50, and then I'm just going, oh God, no, oh God, no, oh God, no. And then like people are always disappointed when they meet me in real life because I don't look as good as the photos I post on social media. But you know, I'm not going to post the shit photos, am I?
Exactly. Everybody loves a filter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do we know if there's going to be a third series of The Grass Is Always Grinder? Can you exclusively reveal?
I cannot exclusively reveal.
If there were, would you be in it?
If there were, and I was asked to be in it, I would love to be in it.
Yeah.
I would love their. I think one of the things that's really exciting about it is actually the format of it means that we can explore a wide range of topics, and I'd be really keen to have a few more scenes of Ryan outside of the clinic. That would be really nice, and I think it'd be really so. Oh, I don't know. I was going to say something which was like a spoiler for the last episode of season 2, but just in case people haven't seen that, perhaps I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But certainly Ryan's life changes in season 2, and I think that there's real room for exploring what that means for him. And I think, you know, I mean, I'm 52 years old, and so therefore I'm guessing Ryan is probably about that same age. And I think as a gay man aging, I think there's kind of interesting topics around that. Kind of, how do we treat people as they get older, and how do we feel about people still being sexual as they get older, and all of those issues which are around body image and the gay scene and community. I think there's real scope to be exploring that. And so if there is a third season, which obviously I do not know,
there we go.
but if there is, I really hope it looks into some of those issues.
And any plans with Chemsex Monologues? Do that again?
Well, as I said, every time someone asks me, I say yes. So, and you know, we haven't done, as far as I know, there hasn't been a production in London since last summer. The last time it was on was at Above the Stag. We were one of the first shows in the new venue, the new Above the Stag venue. I mean, I guess I could probably do it plausibly for another couple of years. After that, we're going to have to change the age of the character. Yeah, he's 46, the character I play in there.
Right.
So when I
You
started,
can still pass that.
I can still pass for 46.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so I can maybe carry on passing for 46 for another couple of years before the foundation has to get too heavy. Yeah, I mean, I would love to do it again, but I'd love to do some more stage work again.
Yeah.
I do find when I'm not doing stage work, I really miss it.
Yeah.
I mean, and film is, I find film very different, and it's really interesting. The process is so different because it's so much about hitting your mark and all of that, and well, I can't watch it. I can't watch myself on film. Oh, it's horrible.
I love watching myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just like, oh, make him go away.
Ah.
Yeah, which I'm sure lots of people sympathise with.
Yeah, most
but-
people can't. Judi Dench can't watch herself.
Oh no, I focus. I can't focus on it because all I can do is like kind of go, oh, I've got a spot, or or really that's the take you chose to go with, or things like that. And it's yeah, I find it really difficult. I mean, obviously it's nice because it lives, whereas when you've done something on stage and then the curtain goes down and you kind of go, and now it has disappeared. But yeah, I think there is something about that live performance which it's absolutely my favourite thing. So I really hope that something will come up soon. And I mean, like, if anyone is watching this and it's like, oh yeah, I can see him in, do it. Fine, call me. Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you see a lot of theatre? Because I saw you at the Afterglow last week.
Yeah. I go to the theatre a lot. Afterglow, I was there because my good friend Kane Surrey, who did Chemsex monologues with me, and another play called Kissed by a Flame. So I've worked with him a couple of times, and he's also in Grasshoppers Grinder, although a bit of a blink or you'll miss him type role in that. So obviously I wanted to go and see him, and he's fantastic. I went to see Dear Evan Hansen last night.
Did you enjoy that? Even without Ben?
Sorry?
Even without Ben?
I really enjoyed it. I like I like it. I think it's I actually found it harder than grittier than I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be a bit it was interesting. It didn't always go with the easy choices, and I thought that was really good. And I mean, the singing and the staging are amazing, and the orchestra is brilliant, and they're all incredibly talented. So go see that.
They're so young, aren't they?
So young. That's okay. I like people with their tight skin and decades of life still to live. It's delightful for them.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Great.
Get yourself to the gym.
All right. Okay. Bye.